But honestly, that's why even now today, that's why I have like muscles in my arms and stuff. When you work out, if you work out to a certain extent, even though the muscles will degrade over time, they're never gonna fully go away. And that's why even to this day I still have some, muscles and everything in my upper body versus some people have nothing. They got those noodle arms, right? Well, I don't have noodle arms.
Hello to all, and I hope your weekend is going well. Broside Phil here, releasing a special non-DSP related video, but it's not void of DSP's influence. Earlier today, I did a stream that I thought I sounded pretty down at the end because it was discussing EDP and the pedophilia sting that he was caught by. Well, it was Phil calling it a frame or a setup job, which impacted me more than I care to admit, because Phil does have a following, and not knowing the correct language or verbiage to use with a topic like this is inexcusable. As the day went on, I went on Twitter, and I saw a repost from @PunisherDem1776, which is what we'll be covering today. In covering this video, I'll likely be telling you a bit more about myself as well. I'm going to listen to this bit by bit, script out my response, and then respond so here. I might cite sources or use visual aids, so if you're a listener and not a watcher, there may be some spots you want to have your phone or screen up. Anyway, let's get started.
Most of us feel discomfort when we think about pedophiles. But just like pedophiles, we are not responsible for our feelings. We do not choose them. But we are responsible for our actions. And we must make a decision. It is our responsibility to reflect and to overcome our negative feelings about pedophiles and to treat them with the same respect we treat other people with. We should accept that pedophiles are people who have not chosen their sexuality and who, unlike most of us, will never be able to live it out freely if they want to lead an upright life. We should accept that pedophilia is a sexual preference.
Boy, this is going to be a lot to unpack. She starts with, quote, "Just like pedophiles, we are not responsible for our feelings," end quote. And what a quote it is. It is also the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard, or at least it's one of the most irresponsible statements I've heard in quite some time. She follows this up with, quote, "We do not choose them," end quote. And this is true. Feelings are not typically thought of as choices. They are there. They exist. This isn't an argument which explains pedophilia, though. She closes the sentence with, quote, "But we are responsible for our actions," end quote. And this is also true. We are responsible for our actions. But none of this has anything to do with pedophilia or any kind of paraphilia for that matter. As an aside, paraphilia is defined by Merriam-Webster as, quote, "a pattern of recurring sexually arousing mental imagery that involves unusual and especially social unacceptable sexual practices," end quote, citing both sadism and pedophilia as examples. And back to my point, paraphilia exists in a multitude of ways, example of which includes adipophilia, or fat fetishism, exhibitionism, kleptophilia, or the arousal from theft or those who steal, and there are many more, some of which you've probably heard of, like zoophilia, voyeurism, or DSP's favorite, coporophilia, also known as scatophilia. And each of these paraphilias are a thing. So why aren't we having TED Talks about not judging these people? Where's the social outcry for narratophilia, or arousal from obscene words, or nasophilia, which is arousal from noses? She continues with, quote, "We should accept that pedophiles are people who have not chosen their sexuality and who, unlike most of us, will not be able to live it out freely if they want to live an upright life," end quote. This sentence is horseshit at worst and dangerously misleading at best. ncbi.nlm.nih.gov, the National Library of Medicine, says, "The etiology or cause of paraphilia, quote, is thought that a combination of neurobiological, interpersonal, and cognitive processes all play a role. A recent study focusing on neurotransmission of paraphilic disorders found evidence to suggest that central dopamine plays a key role in the pathogenesis of paraphilic disorders and the general disturbance of the conscious regulation of behavior," end quote. While someone who has paraphilia or pedophilia may not have chosen it, it is indeed a learned behavior, be that from a regressive mind, a traumatized mind, or otherwise. But what it is not is an inherent condition born into someone. What really irks me is the notion of her saying, quote, unlike most of us, we will not be able to live it out freely if they want to live an upright life, end quote. What kind of DSP-style minimizing, not my fault fuckery is this? Poor them. They can't molest kids freely, boo-hoo. And then this woman closes the bit with, we should accept pedophilia is a sexual preference, end quote. No, we should not. It is a fucking disorder. It makes you broken in the head. It means you are a threat to children, and it is not deserving of acceptance.
Yes, from an emotional point of view, I can kind of understand that you would want to eliminate these people from society. However, it doesn't make sense. And that's because we're talking about biology. We're talking about a sexual orientation, something that we simply cannot change.
And the source of this claim of not being able to change people is what? Trust me, bro? What the actual fuck is this psycho talking about? And this is a good time to bring up the counter-argument by those who can't think 3 feet in front of themselves, which I've heard it be, so if it was socially unacceptable for gay marriage or relationships, you'd be against it? And my answer is, of course, no, because it involves 2 consenting adults, and that's what kills pedophiles. Because as soon as the child is of consenting age, the child would no longer want the pedophile, and the pedophile would no longer want the victim. So somehow, they need to start normalizing that pedophilia is okay, and no, it isn't. According to a study by the University of New Hampshire in 2005, quote, we found 40% of the cases involving CP, also known as CSAM, possession in the NJOV study involved dual offenses of CP possession and child sexual victimization detected in the course of the same investigation. All of these offenders had identified child victims, and an additional 15% both possessed CP and attempted to sexually victimize children by soliciting undercover investigators posing online as minors. When these cases of attempted child sexual victimization are counted, 55% of possessors were considered dual offenders, end quote. And while that study is old, it is quite still telling. It's something known as escalation. First, they'll start with thoughts, then with drawings, then with imagery, then videos, and then, well, videos just aren't enough, and they need to experience it for real. And these are kids, children. I feel like there's a grave misunderstanding of what CSAM, or what used to be referred to as CP, is. Most folks think it's middle schoolers, high schoolers, etc. You know, the barely 18 kind of porn where they wear cheerleading uniforms and have braces. No, that's not it. It's prepubescent, or in simpler terms, it's infants, 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds, the age of actual innocence. And we have fuck and fuckette in here giving speeches about how it's just how they're wired. And there are other disorders which are innocent until acted upon, right? So kleptomania, you're telling me that someone should be able to proudly stand forth and say, I am a kleptomaniac, and they should get the same treatment or respect when being hired for an asset protection job? Or what about pyromania? Those guys should 100% be trusted to drive tanker trucks filled with gasoline, right?
And on top of that, every day new people are born with the same difficulty. So it's not practical to eliminate these people from society. They haven't done anything wrong.
Now on this notion, I agree. You can't conduct pre-punishment to those who haven't done anything wrong. So if a guy has kleptomania, he gets hired as an asset protection dude and never steals anything. Guess who's going to know he's a klepto? Not a damn soul. And the pyromaniac? If he delivers fuel perfectly his whole career, will anyone know he's a pyro? Again, no. And if somebody wants to be a Boy Scout leader or a gym coach, and all they do is be the best Boy Scout leader or best gym coach ever, and they never touch kids, take pictures of them naked, fondle them, sexually traumatize them, or otherwise do the horrible shit which makes child sexual abuse such a fucking dark thing to investigate, guess who's gonna know? Not a damn soul. So the question must be asked. Why are we trying to justify something that, if never acted upon, isn't a crime? I'm not a father of a small child, but if I was, and my best friend was sexually attracted to my mythical daughter, if he never tells me, I don't need to worry or beat the snot out of him in Minecraft. But if he does tell me, she'd never see him again, and I'd be done with that friendship. There's no need for acceptance when the things seeking to be accepted are deplorable. The toxic impact working CSAM cases has had on me is evidence alone as to why children should be protected at all costs. This shit sticks with me on a daily basis. I don't have the nightmares as often anymore, but I still have them, and I'm starting to be able to hang around friends that have 8 to 12-year-old kids now without having full-blown panic attacks. So, yay, all good things. But I was just the investigator. What do the kids that are victimized like this go through? I'm sorry for the non-DSP related video, but I've been trying to talk more to friends, family, and even my internet crew about things that bother me when it's bothering me. And after the stream today, Phil bothered me. So, here I am. More happy chipper shit will be on the horizon soon, I promise. But until then, swole is the goal for a troll. Lift heavy, eat clean.